Yo, what up, everybody? This is Mitch Durrell of Dope Because We Said, and today I'm interviewing a cool dude. He's a Belgian-American artist, and he goes by the name Speelburg. What's up, man?
Hello, how's it going, Mitch?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Very well. I'm working on Saturday, editing this live session thing that's supposed to go out on Monday, so
Got you.
pretty stoked. Yeah.
So I'll ask, man, the first thing that kind of pops about you is your name, because instantly I was like, well, this is his real name, but that's not your real name. So what made you choose this name?
What I normally tell people is that if you're going to associate yourself with genius, might as well go for the very best.
True. I like that.
I mean, yeah, and it has nothing to do, it didn't have anything to do with, I ended up going into making directing and video stuff after
Later on.
that. So I guess it was just some kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
Chose the name, build it and they will come kind of thing. And now I've gotten into directing stuff. Pretty fun. Although I do that under my own name because that would just be really confusing.
Yeah. You might get sued.
Man, I hope not. I really like them, so I hope not.
Well, let's see. Maybe you'll meet him. So
fingers crossed.
Bet. So I gotta ask, what got you into music? I feel like all artists. I'm an artist myself, so I feel like all artists sort of have a unique way of how they found music and how they decided they wanted to do it themselves.
Well, I've always been playing music since I started playing guitar when I was 6, and I did a bunch of years of like classical guitar, and then but that wasn't why I got into it. I got into it, I don't know, for loud like Hendrix stuff, and I think my parents told me that I used to be into Megadeth when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
Like, I don't know that you can be into Megadeth when you're 3. I think it was just like, it was on TV and you're just like,
right.
You turn into both Beavis and Butthead. But yeah, and so just always wanted to play kind of like just electric guitar. So I switched to that in my teens. And then yeah, when I was in high school, I really got into, I made some pretty terrible little EPs and records, but I always really was into the releasing of something. And so it was just always like make stuff and produce stuff and really like just really shitty sounding demos. So yeah, and then that turned into getting a bit more serious about it. Went to college, studied that kind of stuff, and studied music, and then got a bit more serious. But always like, I really like the release of music. I like the designing of the art. I love like the thinking of the plan of like, when you're in high school, you're just like, all right, I'm gonna sell these to my friends. Like, I don't know, it's ridiculous, but I really like that part, and I still really like that part. And now the record's been done for a while, and we're like, getting the singles out, and I still really enjoy like designing the artwork, directing the videos, doing all that stuff. So, I think same way that a lot of people get into music, you listen to a lot of cool stuff, you try and emulate it, you copy it real close, and then kind of go, this is someone else's song.
Yeah.
And then along the way, you learn some nice little tricks, be it production wise or songwriting wise. You don't end up doing the same kind of rhymes.
Right.
I don't know.
I feel you. No, I completely can relate. It always starts with you see it, and then you're like, I want to do that, and then you basically copy it. So I do rap music. So basically, it's like I'm gonna rap just like.
How long you been doing that?
About 4 years, actually. So yeah, I get you kind of emulate somebody, you're basically copying them, and then eventually you're like, okay, I got to make my own type of thing, but you still hold on to what got you into it. And actually that kind of leads me into, who would you say inspired you? Like, who'd you listen to, and whenever you decided you were going to start making it, who did you sound like at the beginning?
I'm very much like like a mind like a sponge where I'm just like, I'll hear a new thing. So every 3 months, I'm just like, want to change styles completely.
I feel it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you must get the same. I think like a lot of musicians I speak to are very much like this, where they, I don't know, there's a lot to be said for where the music industry is now versus where it was 10 years ago versus where it was 20 years ago. I think there was a dip in the 2000s where everyone was getting their shit together, like trying to figure out how we're going to monetize music. But I mean, for all the like terrible things you can say about how artists are not getting paid, in terms of like the culture of it, how people are moving more towards singles and EPs again, that mentality was always something that pleased me. Like the make an EP of like 4 or 5 songs, if that, and then release that, and then a few months later release something new, because then you can always like put a timestamp on it without having to commit to like a 10-11 track format.
That makes sense.
But and so now everything is all about like putting singles out, and you're like, yeah, cool, fine, that's a format that I enjoy. Now if we can match that with the, you know, there was like an artist, like a musician middle class that has disappeared.
Yeah.
So you're either like top tier or not at all. But the kind of like doing all right is, you know, it's withered away.
I agree.
So if we can get that to match the excitement of releasing music all the time. Although that said, the CEO of Spotify just said some questionable stuff about that. Oh well. Anyway, I can, yeah. I'll have to stop myself from giving super long-winded ads.
I feel you. Let's see. Well, I saw that you spend your time, you kind of split it between England and LA, which I've never been to England, but I feel like it'd be kind of 2 different complete cultures, you know what I'm saying? So like, how do you balance, I guess? Like, is there like culture shock at all whenever you leave one place and go to another?
There was at the beginning, although not really. Like I grew up in France, and when I was a kid, my mom's family was American, so we used to go like every couple of years. We'd go to the States in the summer for a while. So kind of definitely grew up with a like that kind of mix of like French culture, American culture, a lot of British television. So you're like informed by a lot of like the British pop culture, and you know the Belgian side as well, although that hasn't exported as much as say like an American thing, but still there's a lot to be said for the Belgians. So that whole like melting pot, when I was like, you know, later like started splitting my time between LA and England, that culture shock wasn't as much. It wasn't there as much.
Right.
But that said, there's still like every time you go back, you're like, you know, the buildings look different. The aisles in supermarkets look different. The packaging, I think like all these tiny little things, like real subtle little things where you're just like, you just feel like you got a foot off for a little bit. And then you kind of just, it stops getting blurry and you start like getting your bearings a little bit. I really enjoy that. I mean, you know, that's probably jet lag.
Yes.
But yeah, no. So I think working between LA and England it's really fun, because you can go out there, spend a few weeks. My management's out there, so you know you get to hang out with them, do a lot of music in a concentrated way, and then come back to England where maybe stuff is a bit more relaxed because, you know, I've lived here for longer. And then, I don't know, it really depends how long you get in each place.
Gotcha. What do you do most of your writing? Is there a certain country you do most of your writing in?
I would say probably England, but it is still split between England, LA, and France. Like the record that's coming out in October, which is called Porsche, that's been written like all over.
Gotcha.
I mean, mostly like in a few key studios, but a lot of it was written down in France, at home. Yeah, so I don't know that they're. Yeah, I guess England. Right.
Well, so you kind of made the segue easy. Speaking of Porsche, I was gonna ask. So you're considering
Porsche.
Is it Porsche?
I mean, I've been told that it's actually pronounced Porsche.
Oh man,
I pronounce it the way the French pronounce it, but apparently Porsche is how they pronounce it.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, so are you considering this project that comes out in October? Are you considering it your debut, even though it's not your first piece of work? I guess that you're considering this like your official debut.
Yeah. So this is my debut album. I wrote and recorded a debut album, and then while I was mixing it, I started toying around with some new ideas, and then wrote and recorded a second album, and kind of finished that at the same time as the debut. And then I was actually gonna release the second one first. Because I don't know, there's just something about releasing something that you've immediately just made that's more like, oh wait, this is totally me right now.
Right.
But then I was like, the longer I leave it, the longer the debut is just gonna fade from the way I want. I'll want to go in and change stuff.
Right.
And if it's just released, you're like, nope, I cannot Kanye West this. I cannot just like hit up Spotify and be like, hey, do you guys mind if I just change a bunch of stuff? Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, the Porsche is coming out. The debut album's coming out first, and it's got a couple tracks that had already been released.
Both very good, by the way.
Thank you, man. Thanks.
No problem.
Then you need to send me some of your stuff, man.
Okay, of course.
But yeah, so it's coming out. It's coming out in like a month, and it's pretty gnarly. Just like the amount of work and time that went into that, kind of what it set out to do, and what it ended up doing, which was a little bit different. Like, I think I set out to make one kind of record, and it morphed into like this other kind of cool thing that I didn't expect it to.
Right.
And I kind of threw just a lot. I was telling my buddy this the other day about it. Is like, I went through a phase of writing a lot of like breakup songs, or not breakup songs, but a lot of like love songs, and a lot of and then at the same time writing a lot of like mourning songs, because I had lost my mom, and it was like this, just a lot of songs were being written about the same thing.
Right.
And there's like a couple on the record that are that, but the rest I just was like, actually, let's try and write something weird. Let's try and write some deeper things, or it's like I'm actually going to try and make an effort to say something, and then throw in all of the love of pop culture, which is why I was describing it as a kind of pop art. Mode. There's a lot of that.
Gotcha. Well, I'm excited for it to come out. I'm sure you are. Well,
thanks, man.
Maybe more nervous. Are you nervous at all, or are you just kind of like ready for it to?
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to be like if I was stood still, like I'd probably be like, oh shit, like we need to do something. But since I'm still like directing, I'm in the middle of directing a shoot for one person, as well as I'm shooting a few things for my record promo on Monday. Then there's a video shoot on Thursday for the big single for the record.
You're moving around too much. You don't have time to be nervous.
That's it, man. You're just kind of just like, you're doing interviews, you're doing this, really fun. Like, I really enjoy this process of it and I really enjoy making the record, but they're two different things.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, you make the record and then you have about like 6 months of basking in the promo element of it, of like, all right, fuck, we've got a small budget. How do we make that last across like this many videos? And you kind of get creative in fun ways that you make stuff look bigger than what they, I don't know. It's the whole thing's like a puzzle, and you're just like, you have this whole deadline to do it, and then you're like, shit, like October 2nd's coming. Right. Okay, quick. And then people are like, "Are you nervous?" You're like, "I don't know. I didn't really have time to be nervous.
Nervous now.
I had deadlines. I was just more focused on those."
I feel you, man. Well, I definitely am excited for it. I got one last question for you.
Sure.
You know, of course, because everyone's going through the pandemic. How has the pandemic affected your life, especially spending your time in 2 different countries and then being a musician? How would you say it's affected you, and how have you kind of gotten through it?
I mean, it's weird. Like it's my girlfriend, or now fiance, she got COVID. So she's a doctor. She caught it at work. We're lucky in that it wasn't the worst. It was like a bad cold. You know, like people are dealing with it differently. Luckily, we're young. She dealt with it. But then there was, you know, those 2 weeks, because in England it was like, if you have COVID, then you have to wait 7 days after you first got the symptoms to be clear. But anyone that lives with you has to quarantine for 2 weeks just to be safe, because they could still get it after that first week.
Right.
Man, like that first week when she had it, honestly, like I just wake up and just be like, oh man, my stomach really hurts, or my head really hurts. And you're like, yeah, it's because you need to just drink some water.
Right.
Like you've just woken up, you're hungry. That's how the human body works.
Right.
But like, if you're hyper aware of it, you're just like, no, I for sure have COVID now. Oh, okay, no, bring it up. And because you kind of want, at that point, because we're sharing a bed, we're sharing an apartment. The apartment's not that big. It's not like I can like go in a separate room for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was more like, all right, I guess I'm gonna get this, and then I didn't.
Wow.
And I still don't know what happened.
You're immune.
Well, we got tested. She had it. I got tested after a week. And it came back negative. And I was like, you know, suddenly all the kind of little cramps that you get the text, be like, it's negative. You're like, oh yeah, good. And you're like, you know, Katrina and the Waves is playing in your head. But you know, it's a terrible time. Like people are getting sick, people are being not safe, and I don't know, like just be responsible, wear a mask. And in terms of like what it's affected in music, like obviously lots of stuff. No work came in for ages and ages. Like no shows. Like I miss playing shows so freaking much.
Right.
I really crave the adoration of a crowd. Just I would settle for any kind of applause at this point for any job done. But yeah, no, so that sucked. But it came at a time when all the record promo had to be done, so kind of busy doing that. So it's been an interesting way of like, oh, okay, well, you're kind of feeling busy, but at the same time you feel like you could be doing more. Yeah. If COVID wasn't a thing. How was yours?
It's been it's been interesting. I actually, when it first started, I was working at a retail store, so I was essential, and I was around hundreds of people a day. And then since then, I've actually gotten a new job, but I work at a cancer center, so I'm in a hospital atmosphere. So it's like my risk has gone up. And then all that, trying to still do music. I do miss shows a ton. But I've learned how to use Zoom a lot more and how to do things virtually, so that it kind of helped in that way. But I definitely want it to be over. I want things to go back to normal.
Have you had to do the Zoom sessions
for
like writing?
I haven't actually. I do a lot of stuff on FaceTime, I guess. But yeah, I prefer in-person stuff, so it's been hard.
Sure, yeah, no, of course. I mean, I've had to do a few of them during COVID, and it ends up working fine.
Right.
But there's definitely a learning curve. Like, just not being able to be like in person and just kind of bang out a song in 4 hours. It's just, it feels like a lot slower.
Yep.
When I write songs with other people, when you do sessions, like you can just tend to get a good song after like 4 hours in the studio. But like, it's just a lot slower. It's a lot more work. And you know, if there's like internet issues, or if there's, I don't know, people peering into each other's houses. And,
right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, man, so we'll say Porsche/Porsche is coming out.
Yeah.
It's October 2nd, correct?
On Sophomore Slum.
So I'm excited for that. We're gonna make sure all the people stream it. Where can people find you online?
So Instagram at Speelburg, SPEELBURG. Slightly different writing for cool reasons. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, Speelburg. All that stuff is all Speelburg. But yeah, if you know, people can pre-save the album. I think there's like a competition running. If they pre-save it, then they can win like a bunch of cool things like vinyl and cassette tapes and a T-shirt. And I was looking at a box of T-shirts over there.
Gotcha.
It's like got them made like for this tour we had.
Right.
Right before. Well, it was like November or October time. Did this huge tour of like these arenas in France and England, like doing this support slot, and it was like, you know, like 5,000-6,000 people, and you're just like, we should definitely get some T-shirts. And then now I've got like a bunch left over, and I think we're gonna give a few away.
Very dope.
Yeah, so if anyone pre-saves the album now until October 2nd, they'll probably get some free stuff.
Very dope, man. Well, I appreciate taking the. No, you can go.
No, I was just gonna say thanks a lot for the interview, man, and I definitely want to hear some of your stuff.
Of course, man. No, I appreciate. This was fun. I definitely am excited for your project to drop. I'm already a fan, and that's saying a lot because I'm a hip hop head. I'm almost always just listen to rap. So if I find something that's not rap that I like, it's impressive.
That's nice, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of hip hop on the record. It's like it's so steeped in. I mean, I grew up with so much hip hop. Like, kind of went through waves of it. Mm-hmm. Like my old band was like this live hip hop band for a while. After it was like a live reggae. It was just like
wow.
It went through different iterations.
Right.
So anyway. There might be some cool stuff on the record. There's a lot of different things. So
something for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And thank you for the time, man. And we're excited for the project to drop, man.
For sure, man. For sure. And let's keep in touch.
All right. Yes, sir.